Okay. Live. I haven't done a live in a long time. They've probably updated things since. So we will hope this works. Telling your followers you started a live video. Excellent. All right. So I will wait a few minutes to see if people pop on. All right. Those are... All right. Okay, I've got questions. Awesome. Oh, we got some people. Great. Excellent. Excellent. Hello. I will wave to you. Oh, I'm going to get rid of my messages on the computer so people can't hear anything. Okay. So we are here to talk about stress and MS. All right. I'll give it another minute. Kind of get everything set up. If you are popping on, tell me where you are popping on from. If you are popping on in America, in another country, where you are coming or viewing from, watching from, whatever. But yeah, so my name is Alyssa. I am the, obviously, person behind Liz MS. I was diagnosed with MS in 2009. I keep wanting to say like 2009, but that's so not correct. 2009. So I've lived with MS for, I don't know, I'm bad at math. Was that almost 16 years? I was diagnosed in August, so coming on 16 years now. Just kind of amazing. Hello, everyone. So please say hello in the comments. Tell me where you're coming from. So I've lived with MS for about 16 years. I'm coming up on 16 years. Oh, New Zealand. Oh, that's so amazing. I love the international ability of all of this stuff. So that's awesome. New Zealand is like number one on my bucket list to come to someday. What time is it there for you? That's kind of like across the world. So I can imagine this is like late. I can't even do the math. I'm super tired today, so my brain is not working, but my brain usually doesn't work for math anyways. So that's not anything unusual, unfortunately. So anyway, 8 a.m., how cool. So that's like tomorrow. I run some groups, and I had a person from Australia in my groups. And so we would have the group at night in America, and then she was the next day in New Zealand or in Australia, and I thought that was so fun. Hello, Lucy. Well, good morning to you in New Zealand. Get back to what we're talking about. So if you're just popping on, please tell me where you're coming from and just say hello in the chat. But we are here to talk about stress and MS. So if you answered my question, so clearly you can hear me. So I'm hoping I'm not too muffled or anything. But we are here to talk about stress and MS. So I was giving a little introduction to myself. So I am I'm a licensed therapist. Hello, Michelle. I like to wave to everybody. I'm a licensed therapist, licensed in the state of Massachusetts. I'm a trauma therapist. I'm a certified personal trainer, AIP certified coach, if you are familiar with the autoimmune protocol. And I help my clients, people with autoimmune disease, with MS, make lifestyle changes so they can significantly limit their symptoms and feel better in their bodies. So a little bit of background on me. Like I said, I was diagnosed in 2009, so I've been living with this for almost 16 years. It was August of 2009. And I was totally fine. Like, I was in grad school. I was, unfortunately, in an abusive relationship, which kicked off my MS diagnosis, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But I had so many things going on. I was like, okay, great. I have this disease. Okay, I'll take this medication every day and inject myself. Because it was Copaxone, which was daily at that point. And there were no oral medications or any kind of anything of that nature when I was diagnosed. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll just do this and whatever. Let me get on with my life, because I was 24, I was in grad school, like I said, I had so many things going on. So I was like, all right, whatever, just take the medication, blah, blah, blah. And then that's that. So I was kind of fine, ignoring my body, angry kind of fine, until I wasn't one day. I had to go off the medication to heal a separate infection, because you can't really heal anything like when you're on medication that limits your immune system. So I went off of it, and then being a stubborn 24, 25-year-old at the time, I just never went back on it. And so that kicked off a series of relapses for me. So I had 3 relapses within a year and a half. I had giant lesions on my brain. My neurologist was calling this aggressive MS, all those kind of things you do not want to hear from your neurologist. So he told me I had to switch medications. Hello, I waved to you. And pretty much told me I had to start Tysabri or something like a heavier hitter, something much stronger. And I did, and I still felt like crap. I still had all of my symptoms. I was just, my progression, like relapses had stopped, but I still felt exhausted all day. I couldn't really move. I couldn't really, like walk or work out comfortably. My skin was crawling. It was horribly painful. It was just not a fun time. And I was really frustrated because I had just changed medication to something that was so good and like liquid gold and supposed to help, and it didn't do that much. So fast forward to like six-ish months later, I started the autoimmune protocol, or AIP, if any of you are familiar with that. If you are not, let me know and I will give a quick overview. But essentially it's an elimination diet where you eliminate a bunch of foods, reintroduce them to figure out what foods are helpful for you, not so helpful for you. And within probably 3 or 4 months of starting that process, I noticed and found that my symptoms had drastically decreased. I was feeling better. I could move better, more comfortably. I was more awake. I had less pain. My life like totally changed. Hey, Kate. Hello. So I was like, holy crap. I was already a therapist. I was already helping people. I was already like in the helping profession. So I was like, I need to tell more people about this. So I started my own blog, like as a patient, and just kind of chronicling my stories and my experiences. And then slowly and surely, it kind of just morphed into me getting more nutrition certifications, my personal training certification. I started to help people make their own changes and kind of be consistent. And there's a word there that I'm missing. Word finding is one of my big things. Starts with an A. Oh well, accountable. That's it. Accountable. I knew it was there. To their changes, and slowly and surely I became my own boss and run my own business now. So I do a whole bunch of things, and I do a lot of coaching and work with clients individually and both in groups to help them make lifestyle changes so they feel better in their bodies, like I was saying. So that's a little bit of background on me, but we are here today to talk about stress and MS. And the connection, because they're often like this, unfortunately. So we all know MS, I'm guessing, right? Or autoimmune disease. You know, if you don't have MS, I'm sure you have an autoimmune disease if you're here. But we all know MS. You know, that's an autoimmune disease of our central nervous system, essentially, where our body starts attacking itself and it's breaking down the myelin that is covering nerves. You know, so that's where we get the symptoms from, because that signal is interrupted from our brain to our body in whichever part of our body it is, and then hence the symptom of either like weakness or spasticity or pain or whatever nerve is getting attacked is what the symptom we will get. You know, so we all know MS. We are very familiar with that. We all know stress too, you know, like acute stress, chronic stress, whole bunch of stress happening right now in the world and in America, and which is making stress everywhere else in the world too. But and stress is really any situation, either acute or chronic, like I was saying, that brings us out of regulation, out of homeostasis, which is that balance that your body is always trying to get back to. Or it's kind of, stress is like something that's pushing your body beyond your stress tolerance, beyond your ability to manage stress. Hello, Cynthia. Let me wave to you. So we all know both of those things. We know, right? We know MS, we know stress. But how are they linked? So let's back up a titch and set the table of like how your nervous system essentially is supposed to function and like the different parts of it. Obviously, this is a very, very, very high level overview. Like I can't like dive into everything on Instagram Live, unfortunately. So here's a quick overview. And if you have any questions or anything, you can pop them in the comments below, or I think there's like an actual question box or something. I'll find it, I'm sure. So our nervous system, how it's supposed to function. So we have different nervous system states, which I'm sure you've also heard of. I'm sure you've heard of fight or flight, which is very similar. That kind of goes together. I'm sure you've heard of freeze, which is actually quite different, but it's also lumped together with like fight, flight, freeze. That's really hard to say. But they are a little bit different. And then there's one that is fawn. So I don't know if you've heard of that one. That's a little bit of a different one. Raquel, hello. Fawn is a blended state. So fight and flight is your sympathetic nervous system. So that's a pretty clear sympathetic driven state. Fawn is actually blended of a little bit of dorsal vagal, a little bit of sympathetic activation, so there can be some blended things happening here. So it's not only your nervous system is in one spot, it can be a little bit of blendy stuff happening. So that's where fawn comes in. And fawn is people pleasing, kind of acquiescing to the stress, kind of making yourself small, like avoiding conflict if you are not as familiar with fawn. So these nervous system states, and so everyone's always talking about, hello, Spoonies. Spoonies matter. Yes, what you do. So everyone's always talking about how you want to calm your nervous system. You want to calm your body, calm. And that's a great thing, but it's kind of missing the point, because these different nervous system states are absolutely needed. We don't want to get rid of them, right? We don't want to only be in the calm state. We only want to be in rest and digest or parasympathetic. We don't always want to be there because we are supposed to go in and out of regulation, but then we are supposed to come back to the calm, come back to regulation, which is usually the piece that we're missing. So I'll talk about that in a second. But these nervous system states are something that we absolutely want, so kind of if you think of that moment, I'm sure you've had an example or a situation like this where you're cooking and you forgot you put the burner on. Sorry, I have a hair. It's floating somewhere. There we go. And you put your hand on the burner by accident, and you move your hand real fast before you could consciously be like, oh my God, I put my hand on a burner, right? We need that because that is your body going, whoop, there's a danger here, and having you react before your brain even knows that there's a danger. So that's really how it's working, is your body is always scanning your environment here. Thank you, Spoonies, always for safety and danger, safety or danger. Your body's like, okay, what's happening? Oh, you put your hand on something that's hot. Let's move it away real quick. So that's a flight reaction, essentially. That's your body being like, nope, we're going to go away. So we need these states, we need these nervous system states. And so it's not the point of to get rid of them or to limit our time there. Well, that's kind of the point, but I'll talk about that in a second. But we don't want to get rid of them. They're absolutely needed for our everyday functioning, survival, all of those kind of things. So little caveat, that's what the point is here. So kind of thinking about how our nervous system is supposed to work, kind of thinking about that, hand burner example. I'm sure you've also heard this kind of example too of the lion. So kind of go back in time to our ancestors who were hunter-gatherers, and the hunters are out. They're out and about. They're looking for food. They're hunting. And all of a sudden they come across a lion. So their nervous system, it goes whoop, spooked, and it goes into the sympathetic. So it was probably already there a little bit, if they're hunting, but they're kind of walking around, they're vibing, they're hunting, they're calm, they're connecting to each other. And then all of a sudden a lion appears. Their nervous system that was in, hello to you, was in parasympathetic, was safety, was connecting, gets shot up into sympathetic fight or flight. So they have a decision, which is probably going to be made before they even can consciously make this decision to either fight this lion or run from this lion. So kind of fighting depends on how many people are there, the weapons they have, all that kind of stuff. But these, for the sake of this argument, they run. So they run back to their village. They get back to the safety of their village and the safety of numbers and the safety of weapons and all those kind of things. And then they fight the lion, whatever, and the threat is gone. And then they come back down to parasympathetic. They come back down to the regulation, to that place of connection, that place of whew, that was a close one. And then talking to people about it, And so that is the piece that most of us today are missing, that coming back down piece. And so like I said a little bit ago, it's not only about that calming, that coming back down, that calming your body. That's one great part of this, but it's not the only thing. But it's a big part that I think we're missing, or a lot of us are missing. So in theory, in like kind of how it's supposed to work is like I just said, like you're going along, you're awake, you're in parasympathetic, which is rest and digest, which is calm. And you are able to connect to people, you are able to be socially engaged with people, you're able to laugh, you're able to talk and kind of have the full range of human experience and emotion, right? And so you have this lion, you're supposed to come up here into sympathetic, fight or flight, deal with the threat, deal with the danger, and then come back down. But we're not really coming back down anymore. That's the problem. Because of like our life today, it's just kind of always up here. So what is also in this conversation is our vagus nerve. So in this up and down, like we're in parasympathetic, up in sympathetic activation, back down, up, back down, which is how it's supposed to work. That's our vagus nerve acting appropriately or functioning properly to be able to facilitate that movement between the states. So that's how we're doing this, is through the vagus nerve. This is why vagus nerve exercises